The bigger they are, the harder they fall. That's the quote that perfectly describes Game of Thrones. It was a show so massive that it felt like everyone on Earth was talking about it. It was also the series that truly kickstarted my journey into film theory. I'm not gonna lie, I was a total nerd for this show, but I have a confession to make. I haven't read a single page of the original A Song of Ice and Fire books. The reason is pretty simple. After being burned by the show's lackluster ending, I told myself I'd wait until all the books were released before I properly dove into them. But the last book came out 15 years ago, and the way things are looking, I don't think the series will ever be finished. That's exactly what we're talking about in today's video. All the reasons why A Song of Ice and Fire will likely never reach its conclusion. The biggest obstacle standing between George R.R. Martin and the finish line is his own writing style. Martin famously describes himself as a gardener, not an architect. He doesn't follow a strict outline. He lets the story grow organically. That worked beautifully in the beginning, and it's the reason so many of you fell in love with his world. But as the series expanded, it created a massive problem that I don't think Martin knows how to fix. He's created too many plot lines with incredibly complex timelines. This led to the famous Meereenese Knot. To put it simply, this was a plotting nightmare Martin faced while writing A Dance with Dragons. The Knot was a struggle to time the arrival of several different characters in the city of Meereen. Because of this, Martin spent years writing and rewriting the same chapters over and over. For example, he wrote 3 different versions of Quentyn Martell's arrival just to see which one fit the storyline best. Thankfully, he eventually solved that specific problem by adding a new point of view character, but the root issue is still there. This is a recurring theme for Martin, especially now when he needs to wrap up major character arcs. Imagine the Meereenese Knot, but on a global scale. Daenerys' storyline, Bran's mystical journey, the White Walkers, the Dorne's subplot, Cersei's downfall, and so many more. Every decision affects 5 other things. If Martin struggled that much with just one city, solving the whole world will take 10 times the effort. And if I'm being honest, as much as I've enjoyed the novellas and the lore I've found online, I'm not convinced Martin can actually deliver a satisfying ending for these long-running arcs. His usual method for closing an arc is to just kill the character. While that adds a lot of depth and is a huge reason for the show's early success, you can't use death as the only solution for every storyline. You still need the core players to move the story forward. I also believe another big reason he's reluctant to finish is the massive backlash to the Game of Thrones finale. Even though the books will likely end differently, that public reaction probably increased the pressure to deliver something stronger, deeper, and more coherent. Everyone is looking at him to redeem the series. Now, Martin isn't just writing for the fans. He's writing to fix the disappointment left behind by the show's writers. This might be distracting him from his original vision. For example, in the books, it hasn't been revealed that Jon is a Targaryen. In fact, Jon is still dead. While there's plenty of foreshadowing, maybe Martin wanted to subvert our expectations again. But after seeing the audience's reaction to the show, he might be seeing Jon's arc in a completely different light. George R.R. Martin has said multiple times that if he passes away, he wants his unfinished work left alone. While I respect that, I'm still disappointed. Let's be real. Martin is older now, and with the success of the show, he's rich enough to live comfortably. On one hand, I get that the stress of finishing this would be immense, and he deserves to enjoy his later years without constant worry. On the other hand, it's a letdown that he doesn't seem to want to cement his legacy. I feel like he owes it to the loyal fans, but instead of finishing the main books, he's been preoccupied with writing extra lore, like the new HBO spin-off A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, or the world building for Elden Ring. To me, it feels like he's completely moved on from finishing the series. To give you an idea of the timeline, the first book was published in 1996, 30 years ago. The series was supposed to be 7 books total, but we've been stuck at 5 since 2011. We are still waiting on The Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring. I don't know if this is a fair comparison, but look at One Piece. Some people ignore anime without even giving it a chance, but One Piece started in 1997 and it's still going strong. Comparing the two, the world building is on the same level. I'd even argue One Piece does it better because we can see the finish line and how every detail from 20 years ago is finally tying together. If you haven't seen it, please please give it a try. It's a masterpiece that dives into deep topics like the abuse of power, slavery, and political influence. Going back to A Song of Ice and Fire, we have to face the hard truth. George R.R. Martin might just be bored with his own story. There's a big difference between being a novelist and being a historian, and lately, Martin seems way more interested in the history. It's a lot easier to write a book like Fire and Blood, where he's just listing facts about kings from hundreds of years ago, than it is to actually finish the complicated mess he's created in the present. When he writes lore, he doesn't have to worry about how a character gets from point A to point B, or if their dialogue sounds right. He just says what happened and moves on. This habit of building the world instead of moving the plot is exactly why the main books are stuck. He's spent so much time growing the garden that he's completely lost track of the path out of it. We also have to talk about the mental side of this. Imagine being in his shoes. Every time he sits down to write, he knows that millions of people are waiting to judge every single word. After 15 years, the expectations are through the roof. At this point, The Winds of Winter can't just be a good book. People expect it to be a masterpiece that fixes everything we hated about the show. That kind of pressure can make anyone freeze up. He isn't just competing with other authors anymore. He's competing with the versions of the story that fans have already written in their heads. The longer he waits, the harder it becomes to actually put a period at the end of a sentence because he's scared of letting everyone down. So, where does that leave us? If we look at the facts, the math just doesn't look good. Even if he finished The Winds of Winter tomorrow, he still has a whole other book, A Dream of Spring, to write after that. Based on how long he's taking now, we'd be looking at another 10 or 20 years. It's a real letdown for the fantasy world. We have this amazing game-changing series that's basically an unfinished building. It's got a great foundation, but the roof is missing and the rain is starting to get in. Maybe the lesson here is that some stories just get too big for their creators. I've personally accepted that we might never get a real ending. We have the show, even if we didn't like how it ended, and we have the extra lore books. In a weird way, maybe the mystery of how it should have ended is the most Game of Thrones thing about it. Life is messy, things stay unfinished, and sometimes the hero never actually makes it home. But hey, if you're looking for a world that actually has a plan and stays on track, seriously, go watch One Piece.